Out of our population of approximately 110,000, over 6,000 are deaf or suffering from some form of hearing problem. We have 5 schools on the island offering classes for the deaf, but not nearly as much teaching the hearing the language of the deaf, sign language. One man who feels we should expand our deaf awareness program to those who can hear is Wayne Smith, the author of a sign language manual printed in Chinese.
Try to put a little bit more emphasis on socializing the deaf after they're out of school. I see very little feeling of a deaf community here on Guam. You know, you rarely see a deaf person on the streets, and I don't think that even deaf people themselves see other deaf people very often.
Wayne, addressing the educational fraternity Phi Delta Kappa earlier today, pointed out the contrast between deaf education here and in Taiwan. He says the main difference is in emphasis. In Taiwan, a country that has a population of over 20,000 deaf persons, social aspects are more developed. In Guam and the mainland, educational programs are emphasized.
Taiwan does quite well in the area of socialization of deaf people after they're, out of school, for example. Recently, we've had a lot of work in trying to get hearing people to learn sign language, and the response in Taiwan has been very, very good. And so now I think what we really need to work on in Taiwan is the area of education for the deaf.
Smith says the ideal would be an equal trade of emphasis between the two. This way, the deaf and the non-deaf would be better educated, and the handicapped would become more socially acceptable. Celeste Gutierrez for Cable News.
Week, students get together at the University of Guam for night classes in sign language through the Special Education Department. This afternoon, those class members, friends, relatives, and others found fellowship and communication through the art of sign language in forms of games, singing, and general conversation. The bulk of the group today was made up of those who could hear, learning the ways of the deaf or hearing impaired. Wayne Smith is instructor for the UOG class who would like to see more people, both deaf and hearing, involved in deaf awareness and communication.
I'd love to see some of the things here on Guam happen the way that they've been working in Taiwan. I've been working in Taiwan with the deaf for the last 5 years, and things started very small there, like no larger than this organization, but by now it's just grown to thousands of people who are interested in the deaf, and quite a few who know sign language, and a lot of things happening. And I think that we can do the same thing on Guam. Why not, So I really like to see a lot more people come and learn sign and get involved in deaf awareness and work with the deaf.
Of the nearly 110,000 residents on Guam, almost 6,000 have some type of hearing impairment, 200 of them totally deaf. While the Special Ed Department at UOG tries to work with those hard of hearing, Department Chairman Dr. Michael Caldwell says it tries to meet the needs of language problems of not only Guam students, but those from other islands as well.
One of the goals of the department is to try to look at what are the needs of the deaf, both children and adults, throughout the region. And how do we train personnel, appropriate personnel, to meet those needs? In this particular class, we have both special education personnel and vocational rehabilitation personnel on a regional basis. The large number of languages, a large geographic area, and the relatively small populations of deaf, it's quite a problem in terms of how do we help deaf people be more effectively members of the community, and that's one of the things we're looking at for training.
Today's informal get-together was hopefully the start of something both Smith and Caldwell hope to see grow between the island's hearing and those with hearing deficiencies to let one's hands become a bridge of communication. KUAM Island News.